Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. Today's webinar is titled Mastering Marketing Automation, the Force of Automation Behind Swift Digital. For those of you whom I haven't had the chance of meeting yet, I'm Ryan. I've worked with Swift for about 15 years now, primarily working with enterprise clients to make sure that they're getting the most of the Swift platform, but also to help them plan and implement any custom projects or solutions that they might have. Also joining me on today's webinar are my colleagues Kim and T. You'll see them in the chat of the webinar. I just wanted to give a big thanks to them. They've done a lot of work with helping to set up and run this webinar, so thanks to both of you. If you have any questions as we're going through the webinar, please feel free to put them in the chat. You can chat them to either Kim or T. They'll collate any questions that we have, and then we'll have some time at the end to run through them. In today's webinar, let's go through the agenda. So first up, I'll tell you a little bit more about Swift Digital. For those of you who aren't familiar with Swift yet, you'll learn more about us as a company and also the platform that we offer. I'll talk about how we secure your data and keep it within Australia. We'll have a look at what's in the actual Swift platform, the different capabilities that it includes. We'll have a look at why so many Australian agencies and organizations choose Swift as their platform of choice. And then we'll look at the different marketing automation capabilities within Swift. I have 3 examples that I want to show you of different automation strategies that clients have set up and currently run within the platform. And then finally, we'll have a look at some features that you might try implementing yourself to increase your own stakeholder engagement. The webinar should take about maybe 40 minutes, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. But for those of you who are existing clients, you probably already know quite a bit about us. Just bear with me through the next couple of slides. For those of you who aren't familiar with Swift, Swift is an Australian-owned and operated company. We've been in business for about 25 years now, and we're known for having Australia's all-in-one marketing and events platform. We'll talk more about what the platform includes in a moment, but we're one of the few vendors that you can find in Australia that has so many different solutions within the one platform and keeps our data in Australia. We have teams in Sydney and Melbourne. I'm based in Melbourne, but most of our team is based up in Sydney. We are government accredited across federal and state levels and also ISO 27001 certified. We offer local support resources. This is something that our clients really love, is they can jump on and get instant help. We offer live chat within the platform. So during Australian business hours, you're always able to jump on and get instant help whenever you need it. All clients have a dedicated account manager that they can go to if they have any strategy questions or just need advice on how best to use the platform. T is one of those account managers who's here with us today. He looks after our Sydney, New South Wales, and Queensland clients. And then one thing that Swift offers that's quite unique to most platforms is we allow you to set up as many user accounts as you'd like. There's no additional cost per user. So, I have some clients that will have 5 users, others that will have 100 or more. It's really up to you how many users you'd like to add to the platform. We offer different controls within the platform so you can control what privileges a user has or what areas they can access. But our clients that have many users find Swift to be a very great platform just for that reason. When it comes to data security, it's one of our top priorities. We have many different government, financial, educational clients who take data security very seriously, and often we have to go through their own rigorous security questionnaires before they can come on board with us. All of your data stays in Australia, specifically to the Sydney region. We use AWS data centers, which are also ISO certified and IRAP assessed. So your data will always stay in Sydney. You don't need to worry about it going overseas. Also, when it comes to data ownership, our terms are very clear that you always maintain full rights and ownership over your data. We offer different security levels when it comes to logging into Swift. So our standard implementation is multi-factor authentication. You can enforce that for all of your users when they're logging in. But these days, we find clients are quite often also opting for single sign-on, where you log in through your own internal environment. It's just another added level of security. And we can integrate with any single sign-on environment that you use as an organization. And then lastly, we conduct regular independent penetration tests. These happen at least annually, and it just provides assurance that the Swift platform is up to scratch against any emerging cyber threats. All right, so let's talk about what's actually in the Swift platform, what tools it provides. You can do everything from email marketing to event management, landing pages, online surveys, SMS marketing, and marketing automation. I'm going to be focusing on some marketing automation examples in this webinar. But if you just consider for a moment all the different platforms that you currently use for these different tools, and then if they were all merged into one platform and you had one database that rules them all, then that is really everything you need in one place. That's what you get with the Swift platform. We'll have a look at some of these different capabilities, but also later on, you'll be able to sign up for a demo. If there's any areas in particular that you'd like to see put into action, you can sign up for a demonstration and I can run you through that in more depth. Let's look at why so many organizations in Australia choose Swift. One we kind of covered a bit earlier is that we're Australian based, so we offer local business hours and local support and training. The platform itself is very easy to use and accessible really to anyone. So you don't need any coding knowledge or even necessarily experience with other platforms. Anyone should be able to pick up and use Swift. Our onboarding is usually quite quick as well. Usually you're up and running within about 2 to 3 weeks. We go through a custom onboarding process with you where we take your brand guidelines and we custom build templates for you. So you never need to start out trying to design or build your own templates. You'll start out with nicely branded templates ready to go. Compliance and security is another option. We are Australian legislation first. So although we do comply with other legislation such as Europe's GDPR, we always look at Australian legislation first when it comes to any policies that we implement. The platform is comprehensive and scalable. So besides just being an all-in-one platform, you can also scale it up to any team size that you have. So we have several government agencies that have multiple different business areas using and sharing one account. We offer certain controls such as folder permissions where you can restrict access to certain users. So you ensure that only users of one business area can access their content and they wouldn't be able to view or access content that belongs to another business area. That's all included as standard within the platform. And another thing that's quite unique to Swift is we do often build custom solutions for clients. Many vendors or platforms, it is what you get, and they don't make any adjustments or changes to that. With Swift, we will quite often build things like custom subscription centers or automation projects for clients to help them automate their comms. We'll have a look at one of those later on. But we will scope out and quote you on custom solutions if they're needed. And then finally, we have endless options when it comes to automation and integration. We have a REST API that you can use to connect any external platform or data source that you have. We have a plugin that you can use to connect with Salesforce if that's what you use. But any other CRM, whether you're using Sugar or Dynamics, you can connect that with our REST API. Clients will also connect things like data analysis platforms, Power BI, that sort of thing to extract data out and then measure or view statistics externally. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of why so many clients choose Swift to run their communications and events. These are just a few of our, in this case, government clients that use us every day. So it kind of gives you a good idea of the clients that we work with on a daily basis. All right, let's get into the marketing automation part of this webinar. So when it comes to marketing automation, there are several different types of campaigns that you can run in Swift, and they fall under different categories. I'm going to run through these categories real quickly, and then we'll get into some of the case studies that I've prepared. So first of all, you can set up nurture campaigns within Swift. So these might be like new service enrollment campaigns or program participation, even just onboarding campaigns where you want to keep someone updated with your brand, or the example here would be like staff onboarding. If you have communications that you want to be sent to new staff after they've come on board with you, you can set up those sort of automated comms to go out from the platform easily. Conditional workflow automations, so that an example of that would be action-based, resending emails to people who didn't open it the first time, just having that automatically resend to unopened contacts, triggering future communications based on maybe a contact clicking on a link or maybe not clicking on a link. So those would be action-based comms. We also offer date-based comms. So these would be things like permit renewals, license expiries. Again, staff onboarding, you could have like a staff onboarding start date, and based on that date, which is unique to each staff member, it triggers certain comms out to them before or after their start date. So that gives you an idea of the different type of conditional workflows that you can trigger through Swift. Of course, transactional comms, things like welcome emails, event confirmations, receipts and invoices. So we have actually a separate solution if you have a need to send transactional communications. Most of our clients would use Swift for marketing or external comms, but we do have quite a few superannuation companies, for example, who have to send transactional comms, compliance comms, like member renewal comms, that sort of thing. Regardless of marketing preferences, you have to send those transactional comms. So we offer a separate solution for transactional communications. If that's something that your organization needs to send out, you have to send emails regardless of whether someone's unsubscribed from your marketing comms, and you're legally obligated to do so, then we do offer solutions for that as well. Web-initiated comms would be the next category. So these could be things that you publish to your website, such as media alerts, new content or post notifications, product recalls and safety alerts. We worked with vehicle recalls not too long ago to set up a whole subscription center where someone can go to sign up for vehicle recalls for the automobile types or makes that they want to receive alerts for. But that was quite an intensive project, but that just shows you the sort of thing that we can help you with if you publish something to your website and you want us to pick that up and then blast it out to your subscriber list. And that's all done handled automatically. We can do those sort of projects for you. And the last category is crisis and emergency comms, so real-time crisis alerts. We also recently worked on a project with Vic Roads where we send email alerts out whenever there's a new crisis or traffic control that's released. We'll send out email notifications to people based on the region that they're in. So this gives you an idea of the different types of marketing automation that's possible within Swift. I'm just going to highlight 3 examples here on screen. So the staff onboarding nurture campaign, resending to unopened contacts, and then new content post notifications through web-initiated comms. Those are the 3 examples that I'm going to take you through, different case studies that we've done and helped other clients set up within the platform. So let's start off with that first example, which is the staff onboarding campaign. So we worked with Jackson McDonald, which is a law firm based out of Perth. They wanted to automate the sending of communications to new staff when they come on board. So previously, their HR team had a series of different email communications that they had to remember to manually publish to new staff. Maybe the first week they'd get certain email communications, the second week they'd get another set of email communications. That was a very manual process that they went through, so it was very time consuming for the HR department, and also not a great experience for new contacts who came on board if they didn't receive certain emails or if something got missed. So they came to us with this problem, and when we helped them set up a fully automated process, I'll walk you through that now, but it just overall resulted in a more consistent communication strategy for Jackson McDonald. So the way that it works is you could imagine within Swift, each of these different thumbnails is a different email. So you set up your different emails. In this case, there's about 9 different emails here. These 9 emails are all sent during the first month that someone starts at the firm. You can see the very first email on the list is a welcome message from the CEO. So that's the first email that gets triggered to someone on the day that they start at Jackson McDonald. And then over the course of the next 30 days, they'll get triggered these additional follow-up comms. These all get sent automatically. Nothing else, there's no other human intervention needed. They just all go based off the back of that welcome email being sent. Some of these email communications are on, what technology is used at the firm, finance information, payroll information, and then the very last email is kind of a congratulatory email, just thanking them for joining the firm. And also it includes a link to a survey for them to provide feedback on their onboarding experience. That survey was also set up in Swift. So once these email communications get set up in Swift, this is what it looks like within the platform. Each one of these is a different email that's built within the platform itself. You can see the welcome email is highlighted right there. So that welcome email is the first thing that we want to trigger to someone when they start at the firm. There's a few different ways that you can trigger the initial communication in Swift. Some might be through data that you have flowing into the platform. But in this case, they wanted to have the trigger process be someone from the HR team submitting the name and email address of the new hire through a form. So we built a landing page in Swift's landing page module, and that landing page looks like this. So it's just a simple landing page. It has a field for the staff first name and the staff email address. So the HR employee comes here, enters the new staff's details, clicks the Start Onboarding button, and that will immediately trigger the welcome email to the new staff member. That's all that needs to happen for this automated process to then continue on. So once this email gets sent, then in the trigger module in Swift, we want to create a different trigger for each of these additional emails that go out after the welcome email. So the way that that's set up in the trigger module, you can see here, there's a different trigger for every email that exists. And the trigger type here is it's an action trigger. So after the welcome email is sent, then X number of days later, send a follow-up email. So you can see email number 2, which is the people in development email, that gets sent 4 days after the welcome email. And then the third email goes 7 days later, etc. It's kind of a cascading effect of when these communications get sent down to the very last one, which is sent 28 days later. So that's what it might look like in Swift when you're setting up these automations. Each automation has its own trigger. When you're setting up the trigger, in this case, it's a sent action trigger. And you can see here we've selected the CEO welcome email as being like the trigger email. So when that CEO welcome email is sent, then the trigger would be 4 days later. But you could set this to be any number of days, or you can set a specific date and time if you want instead as well. But in this case, we want it to be 4 days later. And then we set the follow-up asset or the trigger asset. So in this case, 4 days later, we want the people in development email asset to be sent to the contact. You can customize the sending details here, so the name and email address that it comes from and the subject line. But that's really all there is to it to set up like a single trigger. So you can see all of the triggers here in this list. Once you've set up all of your email campaigns, then it's just a matter of setting up a single trigger for each one. Would take maybe about 10 minutes to set up each trigger, not too long at all. But once you have that trigger set up, it will just continually run until you turn them off. So you can imagine how much administrative time this has now saved the HR department. Previously, they were going through and having to manually publish emails all the time. They probably spent that's what they spent most of their day doing. But now they just submit the email address through a form a single time, and the system takes care of the rest of the email communications and sending them out based on their staff start date. So that's an example of how you might nurture new staff through an onboarding campaign, through an automated way in the platform. The next case study that we will move to is on resending. So when I say resending, it's really just resending an email communication to someone who hasn't previously opened a prior communication. The aim here is to increase engagement or your overall open rates. And it's a great way to, if you have really important content that your recipients need to read or engage with, it's a really great way to increase your overall open rates. Just a word of warning with resending email communications, you do want to be careful with this. You want to pay attention to your unsubscribe rate and make sure that's not ticking above what your standard unsubscribe rate would be. If you notice that it's starting to do that, then maybe you're resending too often. But I've had several clients that use this resending tactic to great effect. So let's go through and have a look at how that works within the platform. In this instance for Commonwealth Super, we set up the automated campaign through our campaign builder tool, which is our most advanced marketing automation tool. It allows you to create multi-pronged user journeys that someone might flow down. So they might be triggered one email, and then later on they're triggered a different series of emails, and there's different paths that they can go down based on conditions or triggers that you set. So in this case, we have represented here through a flow a single email that's sent out to contacts. And then we have a follow-up email that we want to go. Now, this follow-up email we want to be sent to anyone who didn't open the first email. So you can see here the trigger is if this first email goes unopened, then 7 days later, automatically trigger the next email. So that's how it works through the flow here. You can see the pink number there, the 2,738. That's the number of people that didn't open the first email that were then sent the second email. So they flowed through to the next step. So we set this up to run 4 times. So you can see that here through this flow. If they didn't open the second email, then 7 days later, they'd also get a follow-up again. And then there's the 4th and final email. So you could imagine if you didn't ever open any of these emails, in total, you would have received 4 emails through the system. But you can see the drop through each step here. So the drop in contact numbers. So that's what it might look like when you set it up within the Swift platform. You kind of just drag around your different flows and play around with your conditions or triggers. But that's visually what a campaign might look like in our campaign builder module. Let's look at the stats just so you can understand how effective this resending campaign was. So after their first attempt, that first email that they sent, the open rate was 47%, which is actually a really great open rate. But they wanted to try and improve that even more, and they absolutely did. So on the second attempt, they got their overall campaign open rate up to 64%. And then on the third attempt, it was up to 71%. So you can see going from like 47% to 71% overall open rate is quite amazing. The final attempt was just a slight tick above the third one. I think it's pretty debatable whether the 4th email is even necessary. Probably should have just stopped at the third here. We didn't have a huge increase after that third email, but it just goes to show, going from below a 50% open rate to almost a 75% open rate overall is quite an achievement. So that's the power of resending. I've seen several other clients also use this really effectively. It can take like your open rates from a 30 or 35% open rate to a 60% open rate. I've had some education clients that use it with parents really well as well. You also, when you're resending your campaigns, you want to try to maybe have the resends go at different times. So maybe the first resend in the morning, the next resend after work, just to see what works best and to try and capture your audience as best you can. But that is an example of resending emails through Swift and how you can just set up that whole process to run automatically. Once you've set up the campaign itself, it will just run to whoever receives that first email. It will just continually run. Even if you republish that first email to a new group, it will pick up that new group of contacts and they'll automatically enter the flow as well. Okay, let's move on to the next and final case study, which we built for the Civil Aviation Safety Authority. These are web-initiated notifications from content that they publish to their website. This is through their Flight Safety Australia magazine. Here they publish safety alerts, industry news, that sort of thing. And it's stuff that might be relevant to pilots, maintenance engineers, air traffic controllers, even drone flyers. So they publish content to their website. And initially it was reliant on people going to their website to see the content or notifications there. But they wanted to also push the content out via email. So that's where they came to us and asked if we could help them build a custom project that would pick up content from their website and automatically include it in emails and publish it to the correct audience segments. They wanted something that was fully automated. They didn't ever want human intervention. And they also wanted to have this subscription center so that subscribers could pick what they wanted to receive. So they're only receiving content that's relevant to them and not just like content that's more general in nature. So let's look at how it works within Swift. So of course, first on the Flight Safety Australia website, they'll publish an update. In this case, we're looking at this corrosion update. So this update, once it's published to their website, we are notified and we pick up the content from their website and automatically generate it into an email. So that's what you see on the right-hand side is the email version of that article. But in order to publish the content, we have to first know who to publish it to. So that's where we built this subscription center for Flight Safety Australia. So someone would come here, they would enter their details, and then they would set their subscription options. So in this case, the subscriptions are the audience segment that they belong to. Could be a pilot, maintenance engineer, drum flyer, or air traffic controller. And then they also set their topics of interest. So in this case, I might be a pilot and maybe I'm only interested in rotary wing and close call updates. Any other updates I wouldn't receive because I haven't opted into those communications, but that's great because I'm only getting the content that I've asked to receive. And then finally, they wanted to be able to set a frequency. So when we set these up for clients, everyone has different needs. Some clients want the updates to go out immediately as soon as they publish. So when we do it for like media releases, that's quite common. They just go out immediately. But in this case, they wanted it to be a daily digest or a weekly wrap up. So a person can select the frequency that they want to receive email communications at, so they're not getting bombarded all the time with updates. Once someone has subscribed and set their preferences and told us what audience segment they belong to, when the content comes through from the website, CASA actually tags the content with the correct audience segment and who should be shown that content. So we'll generate the email, and then based on the subscription data, the audience segment that they belong to, we know what segments need to receive that communication, so we will automatically publish it to the correct audience segment. So this is an example where they publish content to their website, we pick up the content, we know based on that content who it's supposed to go to, based on the subscription data that we've captured, and then we'll automatically publish it to the correct subscription groups. So this has worked really well for CASA. It has saved them a lot of time. You can see from the results here. So previously, they were manually sending out at least 3 emails a week. So that's quite a bit of work, you could imagine, for one person to create each email, put in the content, choose the lists that need to be published to, maybe even export and import the lists. It's quite a bit of work for a person to do that manually. And it also resulted in, subscribers receiving updates that they might not even be interested in or content that they're not interested in. So it improved performance for them overall. It increased their overall open rates because people were getting the content that they wanted to see. People were more satisfied with the content that they were receiving, and it also reduced unsubscribes for them. So just across the board, it improved all of their engagement rates. And of course, you can imagine the amount of hours that it saved them. So overall, if you calculate the amount of time that someone was spending manually publishing all those emails out, it ended up saving one person about 67 days of work a year, which is very significant. That person can now spend their time doing other things that might be more important or less administrative. And there's also no more manual list management. Subscribers manage their subscriptions themselves through the subscription center that we've built. So CASA really never has to be involved with managing subscribers or unsubscribing or removing someone from lists. It's all self-managed now. We have set up quite a few of these different automation projects for different clients where we grab content from their website, auto-populate an email. You can choose whether you want us to stop at that point. We just auto-populate the email and then you can publish it yourself. Or we can go full automation where we populate the email and then also publish it out to your subscription lists. Every client has different needs. They have different subscription lists and audience segments. So we work with you to scope out a custom project for something like this. But we'll use your website. There's different ways we can grab the data. Most commonly is through like an RSS feed if you have that on your website. But we can extract the data from there and then use that to populate your email communications. All right, that was the final case study that I wanted to run you through when it comes to marketing automation and what's possible within the Swift platform. Next, I want to move to some different features that you can consider adding to your email communications to try and increase stakeholder engagement, whether it's content that makes like sticky content that captures your reader's attention, or if you're just trying to improve overall user experience. There's several different, we call them widgets, but tools within Swift that you can add to your communications to increase your audience engagement. So let's run through some of those now. I'm going to use the city of Greater Geelong as an example. They published this People Connect newsletter. I think they do a really great job of including engaging content, and that's reflected through their statistics as well. So the first thing I wanted to mention is jump links, or in Swift we call these quick links. But with jump links, we add these to newsletter style communications because if you have a newsletter with lots of content, and you'll find this reflected in your statistics. You'll see the farther down you go, the less clicks or engagement you get. That's just because people start dropping off if they have to scroll. So our solution to that is to include jump links at the top of the newsletter. It acts as a table of contents to let people know what's down below without them scrolling. So they can see in the table of contents area different sections or articles that they might be interested in. They can click that and it jumps them straight down to that article. So it's great for your readers because they're getting in front of the content they want to see, but you also will get all the click data. You can see which articles are most popular amongst your audience based on what they're clicking on. So if you have a newsletter style communication, it's always a good idea to include jump links or that table of contents at the top, just to help measure your engagement with different article tags or topics, but it's also good for the user. Next would be to include event lists or calendars in your newsletter or email. In Swift, you can use the platform to run events. You can create events and manage registrations. And if you are doing that, then you can include these calendars within your communications as well. That will automatically display your upcoming events, and it includes a link for people to click through and book in directly to attend that event. Reader-submitted content is another really popular example of content that gets a lot of engagement or clicks. In this case, City of Greater Geelong include that content down at the bottom of the newsletter. I think they're just training readers that that content, which is very popular, is always going to be down at the bottom. So it trains people to scroll and go past the other content that they might also be interested in to get to that content. So something you might consider adding to your own communications. Self-contained content is really important, and it's kind of a policy that we stick with here at Swift. Some platforms, when you add things like videos or read more buttons, it takes you off of the newsletter, away from the newsletter, and onto your website or onto a landing page. We handle that a bit differently. So in this case, you can see here our YouTube widget is built within the body of a newsletter. When people click play, it plays the video directly within the newsletter. We don't send them away to YouTube. Anytime you send them away, there's always the chance they're not going to come back. But they could view the video here and then continue engaging on with your other content. So self-contained videos, you could add self-contained read more buttons. Again, rather than sending them off to a landing page or an external website, which you could do if you wanted to. Sometimes your goal is to get people to your website. But if the goal is just to show them information and have them engage with the other content in the newsletter, then you can use our dynamic expand, collapse, read more buttons. So the way that works is when you click read more, it just expands to show the rest of the content in screen. And if you click read more on the next article, it will collapse the previous article. So it just is an expand collapse functionality. And then self-contained polls is another thing you can consider adding. So one of the widgets you can add to your newsletters would be a poll. You can choose the question that you ask and then the different response options that are available. So these could be any response options that you want. And you can also choose whether you want the results, the aggregated results, to be visible to people after they vote. So that might say like 60% voted yes, 30% voted no, 10% voted unsure. Or you can opt to keep that private, so it would only reflect that that person has voted. It wouldn't show how everyone else has voted. And then you can just use that for your own internal analysis through the back end of the platform. Reactions and ratings is one of our newer article widgets, and you can add this to any type of email communication that you build in Swift. The goal here again is just to get more clicks and try to increase engagement. So the thumbs up, thumbs down widget is quite a popular one. I mean, you could ask your audience if they enjoyed that article or would they like to see more content like this, thumbs up, thumbs down. Star ratings, they could rate the overall newsletter itself or edition or different articles as well. And then satisfaction ratings here. There is a fourth option, which I didn't show, but that's adding social reactions, making it a bit more like Facebook, where people can thumbs up, thumbs down, surprise emoji, smiley face, that sort of thing. So you can add these reactions and ratings multiple times to your communications anywhere that you'd like. If someone is scrolling through a newsletter and they might not have clicked on anything, adding these might get them to do that click, which helps your overall statistics to go up. All right. Next, I just wanted to go through a highlight for Commonwealth Super and the way that they have personalized content based on the data that they have on their contacts. Personalized content can really help increase your engagement and click rates as well. You can do personalized content based on any data that you have. Not everyone has great data available to them, but if you do have data on your contacts, such as their gender, location or state, their age range, or what interests they have, then you're able to use personalized content within Swift to tailor what they see. So in this case, you can see two examples here. This is based on gender. So females would see the banner on the left, males would see the banner on the right, but they've also trialed it based on age range. So someone who's a senior would see imagery that has seniors in it. Someone who's in their 20s would see imagery with younger people. So any data that you have on your contacts, you're able to add rules onto them. So in this case, it'd be for people on the right, display this if gender is male, and also you can see personalization by name. So any data that you have, you can set these rules on. Location's another really common one. If you're in Victoria, you might see banner or image data, or even just certain content that's only specific to people in Victoria. But you do need to have the data in place to be able to support this. But if you do, that it's very easy to add these sort of rules onto your content, and that's something that our support team can help show you how that works as well. If you would like to sign up for a demo, I can show you exactly how it works. It's really easy to set up on any text or imagery content that you have. All right, that was all the examples that I wanted to show. Thank you so much for taking the time to run through all of that with me. Hopefully you found some useful things in there or different examples from the case studies that you might be able to implement at your own organization. We do have some downloads that you can download to help with, there's like email newsletter best practices, a communications plan template for you, and a security checklist for your current email service provider. We'll provide the presentation as a PDF. That'll be sent to you via email. Kimberly will send that out to you later. And then you can just click these within that email to download these assets, but they can be quite useful to you. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to run through this today. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into chat. If you would like to see more of the Swift platform and run through a demonstration, you can scan the QR code here or click to book in a demo. And I can run through any specific questions or areas of the platform that you'd like to see in more detail. But I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again so much for joining us, and hope to see you again at another webinar in the future. Thank you.